Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we'll be testing out Quick Attack SYLVEON in the Ultra League. SYLVEON has previously seen extensive use in the Ultra League, but previously only with the fast move of Charm. Now that Quick Attack has been buffed, it does give SYLVEON an option to run a faster energy generation move at the expense of significantly less fast move pressure. I tested it out with a team consisting of a Swampert lead and a Granbull on the back to see if it is worth using. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Quick Attack SYLVEON in action in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, sending Swampert into Gallade. I have two better responses in the back, so I save switch into SYLVEON and I bait out a Crobat. This is typically a terrible matchup for SYLVEON with Charm, but with Quick Attack, I'm able to reach Psyshocks very quickly. First one able to land, and that deals a ton of damage to the Crobat. Crobat fires off the Poison Fang. SYLVEON able to tank it, and able to reach a second Psyshock. This way, I either get shield advantage or switch advantage. They let it go, and just like that, my Fairy type has taken switch advantage from a Poison type. They have a ton of energy on their Gallade, and I'm going to bring in Granbull. Granbull is going to be able to tank the Leaf Blade. That does quite a lot of damage here. I am going to commit the shield and then fully commit to the farm down here. We'll have to see what they have in the back. They have Swampert. I'm farming up, going for the crunch, and it looks like it's a CMP tie. If so, that's a massive mistake by my opponent. Crunch gets the shield, and it's a CMP tie. You absolutely love to see it. And now I can bring in my own Swampert, and I should be in a pretty good spot to close out this game. The CMP tie prevented my opponent from over-farming more. I'm going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. That gets them extremely low. At this point, even if it's the Earthquake, it's not going to be enough to KO. So I let it through. Earthquake does get me very low, but Gallade should be in Mudshot farm down range, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a Dream lead, Swampert into Shadow Muck. Immediate save switch by the opponent into my Lodic. I'm going to stay in with the Swampert and go straight for the Earthquake. This Earthquake will do a ton of damage if it lands, which it does, and my Lodic is going to return fire with the Surf. I'm going to let the Surf go and then bring in SYLVEON. I will be able to massively overfarm in this matchup with SYLVEON. My goal is to leave with quite a lot of energy so I can threaten that Muck with super effective Psyshocks. They're going to fire off a Surf, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to farm up quite a bit, fire off a Psyshock, but I am actually going to undercharge it. The reason being, I want them to be able to land a second Surf, so that way it's going to limit the amount of farm the Muck gets on my SYLVEON. They're going to fire off the second Surf, I'm able to farm down, back in comes the Muck. SYLVEON farming up, and I'm at the back-to-back Psyshocks, firing off the first one, Psyshock, massive damage, and I'm able to get the second one off as well. Let's go. Second Psyshock gets a shield from the Muck. I'm going to wait my timer a little bit and then bring in the Swampert. Swampert goes for the Hydro Cannon, but a beautiful catch by my opponent as they're able to catch the Hydro Cannon onto their Gyarados. I'm going to stay in with the Swampert. I'm going to bank the Hydro for later and then bring in Granbull. And Granbull is incredibly oppressive with the charm damage. They're going to fire off a move. I'm going to let this through. Just the Aqua Tail. They're at a second Aqua Tail, and I will actually commit the shield here. The reason being, I want to preserve HP, so I'm going to be able to reach a Crunch versus the Muck. Back in comes the Muck. Granbull able to reach the Crunch, and because I'm able to reach this Crunch, this game is over. Crunch grabs the shield. They're able to farm down, but I have the Hydro Cannon banked on Swampert. This Hydro Cannon will take out the Muck, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, sending Swampert into Toxicroak. This is a pretty nice lead for Swampert. Opponent will immediately save switch into Snorlax, and I'm going to stay in here to start. Swampert is going to be able to output a ton of damage onto Snorlax, and I definitely need to get some chip on it before I can bring in either one of my Fairy types in the back. I'm going to farm up and fire off a second Hydro. This is not going to be enough to KO, but it is enough to grab a shield from the Snorlax. Snorlax is going to fire back with a move. I'm going to let that go. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to farm up a little bit and then bring in Granbull for the farm down. I'm going to let this go. Body Slam is not going to be enough to take me out here. And then I am going to be able to Charm all the way down before they're able to reach their next move. That is massive. In the back, they have Shadow Walrein. And Shadow Walrein is not going to appreciate these charms. I'm going straight for the close combat. Close combat does get the shield. Walrein going for the farm down. They do leave with a ton of energy. I'm going to bring in my Swampert to basically force them to throw energy here. They're going to fire off the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear takes me out, and now it's all up to SYLVEON. And if that Toxicroak comes back in, it's going to get absolutely destroyed by Psyshock. Icicle Spear lands, they continue to farm up, and in comes Toxicroak. I overfarm, and I'm going for the Psyshock. Hello, Toxicroak. Goodbye, Toxicroak. Back in comes the Walrein. I do live this Icicle Spear, so I'm going to let that go. Icicle Spear, not enough to KO. SYLVEON able to reach the Moonblast. Moonblast will be taking out the Walrein, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up the Dream Lead, Swampert into Charizard. You absolutely love to see it. And the Charizard is staying in here, which means they must be extremely weak to Swampert in the back. I'm going for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon able to land. I'm going for the switch into SYLVEON. The game is lagging. Come on, game. I'm able to bring in SYLVEON, and they're going to fire off a move. Blast Burn will hurt, but I will be able to absorb that damage. I tank the Blast Burn, and in comes Escavalier. Definitely nice to bait out the Steel type, so that way Granbull's not going to have to face it in the back. Moonblast is going to do a lot of damage, and I get an attack drop as well. Escav is going to be firing off a move. I'm going to let this go at this point because SYLVEON has done its job. And now I can bring back in Swampert. I'm going for the Hydro Cannon, but I do lose CMP. I'm going to commit the shield because I do need to get rid of this Escav, and Swampert is my best way to do so. I'm going to fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is enough to take out the Escav. In the back, they have their own Shadow Swampert. And honestly, things are not looking good for me whatsoever. They do commit the shield, and I'm in a lot of trouble here because they're going to be able to overfarm quite a bit. And now I'm not going to be able to charm them down before their Swampert is going to be able to reach several moves. That is quite unfortunate. And at this point, this game is basically just over because a Shadow Hydro Cannon will nearly be enough to take out the Granbull here. And they're going to be able to reach 2 more Hydro Cannons. They're going to fire off the first here. Granbull going for the charm down, but I'm not able to get there. They reach the 3rd Hydro. That will take out my Granbull, and we lose a heartbreaking game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a terrible lead, Swampert into Gyarados. Immediate save switch into SYLVEON, and my opponent responds with Muck, and we have again successfully trapped the Poison type. I'm going to fire off the Psyshock. Psyshock deals a ton of damage. They're farming up. They're going to fire off a move, but Thunder Punch is not going to be enough to KO here. So I'm going to be able to tank the Thunder Punch, reach a second Psyshock, and either force shield advantage or switch advantage. My opponent commits the shield, and they're going to be able to farm down. But at the very least, I now have a shield advantage for my Granbull in the endgame, and I can use the Swampert to absorb the energy and get a massive energy lead. They're going to fire off the Dark Pulse. That is perfectly fine by me. Second Dark Pulse? No problem. Go right ahead. Swampert is just going to continue to farm up, and I'm able to farm all the way down. That's massive. Back in comes the Gyarados. I'm going to fire off the Resisted Hydro Cannon for some chip damage, and then it is Granbull time. Granbull absolutely tearing through the Gyarados, which is staying in. This gives me hope that they might be weak to Granbull in the back. I shield up the Aqua Tail. In the back, they have a Rangaroo. Honestly, this is not what I was hoping to see in the back. I'm going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch will, of course, get the shield, and we get the defense drop. That is massive. This Oranguru has farmed up a ton of energy. I'm going to be committing the shield, as a foul play would be enough to knock out. Oranguru able to reach a second move. This is going to be enough to KO here, but the thing is, this is now in Mudshot farm down range for Swampert, and I should be able to reach back-to-back moves. Firing off the first Hydro Cannon. If this isn't enough to KO, I should be able to reach a second, but the Mudshot takes them out, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, letting Swampert into Trevenant, Nightmare lead, immediate save switch into SYLVEON, and my opponent responds with a Alolan Muck. So far, things honestly could not be going much worse. Countered on the lead and on the swap. They fire off the Acid Spray, and I'm going to return fire with the Moonblast. Moonblast is going to do a solid chunk of damage here onto the Muck, but unfortunately, my defense is debuffed, and I'm not able to reach a second move. I'm going to bring in Swampert and basically just try and commit to the Mudshot farm down and hope that with an energy lead and 2-shield Granbull in the back, I'm going to be able to pull off this game. I am able to Mudshot down. That's massive. Back in comes Trevenant. I'm going to fire off the Hydro Cannon for some chip damage, and then it is Granbull time. Granbull is going to be met with a Wall Rain, and this is not what I was hoping to see whatsoever, because Wall Rain is incredibly tanky, meaning that it's very resistant to a 2-shield charm down from Granbull. I'm going to fire off the Crunch. Crunch would do a solid chunk of damage, so Wall Rain is going to commit the shield, and unfortunately no defense drop here. I think at this point, I have to let this go and trust in Swampert. They're very close to a move. I'm going to farm up, fire off the Hydro Cannon on CMP. I need this to KO. Hydro Cannon barely does not KO. And now I think that is just going to be game over because I have to give up a shield. In comes Trevenant, and I concede the match. Good lead in the next match, Swampert into another Toxicroak. Opponent is going to stay in here, farming up, and a safe switch into Snorlax. Honestly, I'm going to stay in here for now because I want to do some damage to this Snorlax. I fire off the first Hydro Cannon, that's going to do quite a lot, and I'm going to fire off a second. 2 Hydro Cannons is going to be getting the Snorlax quite low. I'm going to farm up, switch, and catch onto the Granbull. I can use Granbull to absorb energy here and fully commit to the Charm Down. Granbull is able to Charm Down before they're able to reach a move. In the back, they have Wall Rain, so this is the team that we have seen before. They're going to fire off a move. Tough decision to make here. Honestly, you know what? I want to try and get shields down. So I am going to commit the shield and then fire off the Crunch. They have to shield in return here because it would just do a massive amount of damage. Wall Rain going for the farm down. They decide against it, and in comes Toxicroak. Toxicroak does have a decent amount of energy. I'm going to bring in Swampert to make them throw a Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb, not the strongest move ever, so Swampert is going to be able to survive it and fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon onto Toxicroak, gets the shield, and now it is Sylveon time. Sylveon charging up energy incredibly quickly. This could be enough for a Sludge Bomb. I will respect it, and it is. I'm going to overfarm in this matchup, fire off the Psyshock. This will easily take out the Toxicroak, and then I just need to reach a second Psyshock versus the Wall Rain. Back in comes the Wall Rain. No one move they throw here is going to KO. We tank the Icicle Spear, and we get to the Psyshock. Psyshock will easily take out the Wall Rain and clutch the victory. Hopping into the final match, leading Swampert into Shadow Snorlax. Fairly neutral lead. I'm going to want to stay in here and get some chip damage before I do eventually save switch into Sylveon. So I'm going to overfarm slightly, fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon deals some nice damage. In comes Sylveon, and the Snorlax is actually staying in here. Snorlax is going to fire off some energy. I do survive a Body Slam, so I am going to let that through. They're staying in. I'm going for the Moonblast, but they make a beautiful catch, catching the Moonblast onto a Scavalier. My opponent, well-versed in the Quick Attack Sylveon counts. Wow. I'm going to farm up, try and go for another Moonblast, and they actually let me get there. Honestly, that is fantastic. That allows me to grab a shield. Escav is going to continue to massively overfarm. At this point, I'm just going to let it go. Sylveon has done its job. I baited out the Steel type, and now I just need to use Swampert to get rid of the Escav, and then trust in Granbull to close in the endgame. I do commit the shield. It's the Drill Run. I should be able to overfarm in this matchup, and then fire off the Hydro Cannon. Do they want to give up the final shield in this matchup? They do not. Escav gets taken out. They bring in Gyarados, and Gyarados will be met with Granbull. Granbull honestly looking pretty nice to close out this game. Gyarados is going to fire off an Aqua Tail. I'm going to let it through, and I'm expecting we're going to see that Snorlax. Snorlax does have loaded energy. I am going to commit the shield. I am committing to the Granbull. Granbull is going to go for the Crunch. Let's grab that final shield from the opponent. Crunch gets the shield and the debuff. Granbull charms down the Snorlax. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, I enjoyed Quick Attack Sylveon way more than I was expecting to. I got the idea from a fellow content creator for the battles on Twitter, and being able to bait out poison types and punish them with the quick energy generation of Quick Attack and spamming out those Psyshocks was honestly a lot of fun. The only thing that I'm not 100% sold on was the team comp around it, to be honest. The team comp honestly felt pretty weak overall up against Wall Rain and Trevenant, and that core is absolutely everywhere in the Ultra Premier Cup. So while I was honestly pretty impressed with Quick Attack Sylveon as a safe switch, I will be hunting to see if I can potentially find a different team comp for them. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.